everybody and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to show you 5 easy and simple ways to improve your toddler or child's language instantly. If you'd like to find out more, then keep watching. If you're new to my channel, then hello, my name's Sophie Pickles. I am a mum of a 19-month-old little boy called Finley, and I'm also an early years teacher and early years professional. I've got lots of experience working with little ones, both in leading an early years setting and also as a nanny and an au pair and a mum. So lots of experience with helping children to develop their language. And these are going to be 5 really easy and simple ways, simple things that you can employ at home today to help your child improve their language. And I promise you, if you do these things, you will start to quickly see your child's language improve. Before we carry on, sorry for my appearance. It's a beautiful day today. It's really sunny, which is unusual for England if you know English weather. And we've been at the river all morning, making the most of it. So I've just tried to quickly throw myself together, probably not very well, but never mind. Let's get on and talk about these 5 ways that you can improve your child's language. So the first really easy thing that you can do, and this is one that you can do from the moment your child is born, or actually from the moment you find out you're pregnant really, and children start, well, babies in the womb start developing hearing around the 5-month pregnant mark. So from then you could really start trying to do this next one. And that is to narrate what you're doing and talk about what you're doing. It is a really easy one to do because sometimes with toddlers and babies, it's hard to get that conversation because they don't talk back to you. With older children, it seems to be a lot easier to talk to them. And so a really simple thing that you can do is just talk about what you're doing, narrate what you're doing. Oh, I'm going to put the dishes in the dishwasher now. These dishes are dirty, aren't they? Because we've been eating our lunch. Let's put them in the dishwasher, load them in one by one, and just narrate what you're doing, because in that way your child is going to pick up on so much language. And another important thing to remember is to use the real words for things, because it's really tempting, isn't it, to use baby talk with our children. And I know from being a mum that it is tempting, especially when they're so cute when they say certain little words, and it's tempting to use those words back to them. But actually, it's really important to use the correct words for things, the correct vocabulary, and actually use even difficult mathematical and scientific language. It's been proven actually that children who are taught to in this way develop their language much faster than those children that are talked to in baby talk. And actually, interestingly, it's dads that are better than this than us mums, because dads tend to not dumb down their language for children, and they do use some tricky technical vocabulary with the children, and you maybe sometimes look at them and think, why are you saying that? They don't understand what you're saying. But they may not understand, but actually, if you keep on using that language consistently, then they are going to pick up on it. There was a study done a while ago about children who had consistent talk from a father figure and a mother figure, and those children that had consistent talk from the father figure who used that technical language in their play actually had a much higher level of vocabulary than those children who talked with their mums and maybe didn't use such technical vocabulary. So that is tip number 1. Narrate what you're doing, talk about what you're doing consistently all the time, even if it's the most mundane thing, because your child just loves to hear your voice, and that will help them pick up on their language skills. The next tip is linked to the one we just talked about, and it's called the 5-finger rule. And if you are a teacher, you might have heard of this one before. It comes from the government initiative that was started a while ago called Every Child a Talker. And that initiative was aiming to get children in schools talking more. And so the 5-finger rule is really simple. All it means is that for every question you ask a child, you should be making 4 statements. So let me explain that a bit more. If you are, for example, playing with your child and you're playing in their toy kitchen, in the kitchen, it might be tempting to point at a piece of fruit and say, what's that? What's that fruit? Banana. What colour is it? Yellow. Where are you going to put it? In the bowl. But actually, in doing that and asking questions, you're really just eliciting a 1-word response from your child, or maybe a 2-word response. And actually, it's really important not to question them and instead to make statements. So actually just to play along with your child. So you could say, in the same scenario, oh, I'm going to get a piece of fruit out of the bowl. I think I'm going to choose this lovely juicy apple. Oh, let's take a bite. Isn't it crunchy? I think I've finished with that now, so I'm going to put it down on the side. Can you see how doing that brings about much more language than just questioning your child? And they will join in with you. And you might not think it at first, but I promise you, because I've used this rule countless times and it does work. The children will start to respond to you by using the same kind of sentence structures and the same level of vocabulary and language that you're using. So instead of just giving you a one-word answer like red or square or 3, they'll be talking more and putting things into sentences more. And it is really tempting sometimes, isn't it, to just ask them questions, because when we ask them questions, we often ask them questions about things that we know they know the answer to already, because that, as parents, makes us proud to hear them give the right answer. Or maybe we even want to show off to somebody else, grandma or somebody, that they can say that word or say that number. But it doesn't really help their language development that much. And it's okay, of course it's okay to question your child. But what you should really be doing is asking them questions that are open-ended and maybe that you don't know the answer to. Or so you could, for example, start off your question with, I wonder what will happen if. And then you're inviting your child to give you more than a one-word answer and to actually really think about what you're doing and the processes behind what you're doing. So that is the 5-finger rule. For every question you ask your child when you're playing with them, you should be making at least four statements about anything to do with what you're playing before you ask them another question, rather than just asking them question after question. The next easy way to develop your child's language is probably an obvious and easy one, and this is to read books. You should be reading books to your child every day, multiple times a day, and I'm sure that you do. And sometimes it's hard to find that time to read to your child, and it's okay if, of course, some days you can't find the time to read, but it is really important to read to them from them being newborn. And you might think that it's really silly to read a book to a newborn child because they don't give anything back, do they? But all the time they're taking in that language and thinking about what you're saying and developing their own language for when they do start to talk. And of course, once your child starts to talk, then that's when the fun really begins with reading. So using all that talk around the pictures and around the story will help your child to develop their vocabulary. The book will help them to develop their vocabulary, and it will also, hopefully, help them develop a love of reading. I would say that it's not as important to to push your child into reading before they're ready. Children in this country, in England, are pushed into reading, in my personal opinion, at a very early age. That is normally 4 years old, sometimes even earlier, 3 years old. And actually, there is no evidence to show that children that start reading earlier will be any better at English language or at comprehension when they're older. In a lot of countries, children don't read until they're 7 years old, and they still make fantastic progress as they get older. So don't necessarily worry if your child isn't reading the words or push them into reading the words. Just let them enjoy listening to the story and listening to you reading the words, because in that way they will start picking up on it and they'll get to a point when they want to have a go at reading the words. And as soon as they start showing an interest in wanting to read the words, that's when you grab onto it, and that's when you can start to have a go at teaching them how to read the words as well. If you'd like me to do a video on early reading with your children and those first steps that you can take to help your child to read at a young age, then do let me know in the comments below, because I'll happily make one of those for you. The next tip might seem a little bit of a strange one for learning to talk or developing language, but that is to develop the listening skill. And this is really important because if children are going to talk properly and be able to enunciate and pronounce words properly, they need to be able to actually hear the sounds properly. And a really easy and simple way to do this activity with your child is to go on a listening walk. Because so often when we're going on walks with our children, we might say, oh look, I can see a bird, or I can see a dog, or look at that red car going past. But actually, if you talk about listening as you're going, what can you hear? I can hear birds tweeting in the trees. I can hear a car going past. Oh, can you hear that siren in the distance? Letting them have a go at listening to those sounds and picking up on smaller sounds and louder sounds and helping to differentiate between sounds is actually going to really help them with their talking and with their language development. And the last tip that I've got for you is to sing songs with your children. Singing is so important because it develops our children's language in a fun and interesting way. And also, when you sing, the cadence that you're using when you're talking or singing, and often the rhyming that's involved in a song, rhyming's another good one as well, books with rhyming words. But when you're singing and using rhyming words or using that kind of sing-songy voice that you do when you sing, actually helps children to both pick up on language but also to remember new vocabulary and remember new language. I would advise that you sing to your child, or with your child rather, every day. You can sing nursery rhymes, you can sing songs that you enjoy, you can just actually sing what you're doing, and that links back to the first tip that we were talking about when I said about narrating what you're doing. You could narrate what you're doing, and you might feel a bit stupid, but if there's nobody else around, it doesn't matter. And of course, you know your child's not going to be judging you, and it will really help them to pick up and develop on their language skills. So thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I hope that that was useful and gave you some inspiration or some tips on how to develop your child's language. And I promise you, if you try these things and if you employ these things at home consistently, and it does need to be consistently and over a period of weeks, I promise that you will see improvements in your child's language. If you'd like any help with anything, or if you'd like any further advice, then please do just leave me a comment below, or if you prefer to send me a direct message or an email, all my details are in the drop down box below. If you're not already, then please do subscribe. I'd love to have you here. I'm just building my channel, and it's so lovely that some of you have already decided to subscribe to my channel. It really means so much to me, and it is pushing me on to make more videos, and I'm just really enjoying the journey actually in making videos for you on language development, on play ideas, on anything to do with toddlers, babies, preschoolers, school-age children, because that's really what I'm passionate about and what I always have been passionate about. If you haven't already, then head over to my Facebook or Instagram and chat with me and interact with me on there. I post daily play ideas on Instagram and Facebook that are different than a lot of the ideas that I talk about in my videos, so just additional play ideas for you and your child. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you very soon. Bye.